According to the biblical account, in the beginning the earth was formed with order, purpose, and beauty. God separated the land from the waters. Humanity was entrusted not as owners, but as stewards, to cultivate, to protect, to care. But today, the balance is shifting. In Nairobi, the city under the sun, rapid urban development is transforming the landscape. Where trees once stood, towers now rise. As the skyline grows taller, one question remains: are we building in honor of God's command, or simply building to satisfy human ambition? Nairobi's population has grown from fewer than 1 million people in 1979 to more than 5 million in the metropolitan region today. Kenya continues to face a significant housing shortage, fueling rapid construction across the city. Affordable housing projects are expanding. Private developers race to meet demand. Investors seek value in every square foot. But can growth keep pace with planning? Kelvin Kimani, a site engineer, explains what is driving this transformation.
60 to 70% of upcoming projects are residential projects. This includes apartment buildings, this includes mixed-use developments. This being driven majorly by three causes. You find one is the population pressure. You find that the rate of growth of population in Nairobi is quite high. Because if you look at the statistics now, Nairobi now has a population of around 5 million people. So these people need access to quality housing. The other thing driving the development is growth of Nairobi as a regional hub. Find that Nairobi is becoming like the capital city of Africa. So you find that there are international companies which are setting up their offices in Nairobi, and these expatriates and diaspora people, they need access to quality housing. The other thing we can say is land scarcity. You know, land is a fixed asset. It doesn't grow. Population grows, so we find that the limited land we have, the only way we have to go is up.
The demand for housing is real. Thousands of new homes are being built. Yet experts say housing must be matched with infrastructure, otherwise growth comes at a cost. Dr. Romanos Opio, an urban planner, explains why planning matters.
The reason here is high demand for housing, and you find that the planning is not in tandem with the demand for housing. So as we increase the density, we are trying to accommodate more people in a smaller spaces. This has implication in terms of, first, the demand for services and facilities like water, basic services like water, sewerage, even things like parking spaces. And at times, when you have such kind of challenges, it has negative impact.
Urban planning is meant to guide growth, but in many parts of the city, development is outpacing design.
See the problem, like if you look at developing countries like Japan, you find 50 stories or 100-story building. But you see, they are able also to give adequate support infrastructure for such kind of facilities. But in Kenya, if you go to, it's like pipeline. You have 17 floors without lift, without water, without proper lighting. So you find you'll have to, if you want to spend even a daytime in that particular area, you have to put your lights on because the rooms are dark, because they are very squeezed there. So such kind of aspect actually impacts our environment negatively.
In Nairobi, development is moving faster than infrastructure. High-rise buildings are emerging. where infrastructure was never designed to support them. Water systems stretched beyond capacity, sewer lines overburdened. And when the rain falls, the city begins to choke.
One of the reasons that we observed a very high water level is the drainage system has changed, and there's a lot of water that passes under our parking, but never quite been an issue until 1 or 2 years ago, when there's more water coming in and little being able to come out as fast as it could.
On the high-rise buildings, I agree. They contribute to a certain extent to the flooding. Because you find that you put up a 50-story building. These days we use in-house toilets. So all that waste, all that water, it has to be directed somewhere. That area, you find that maybe before it was just a low-rise area. So the drainage systems were not designed for high capacity, they were low capacity. So you find that you will create a strain on the existing drainage lines.
Other than the high rises and not having enough drainage, because drainage isn't just whatever is constructed, it's also land as God intended it. It will soak it up. You'll have lush green plants and flowers, and it's just because of the rainwater. If we were to accommodate more green spaces or more greenery within those same spaces, and I don't mean in pots, water would find somewhere to go.
I'll say when we concretize, because when we are developing, as we continue to concretize, we actually increasing the runoff, the runoff of water. So that's one. Secondly, the issue of waste management, because we find most of our drainages are being blocked the way the plastics and others. Yeah. So you find when there's a small rain, you find the places are clogged, and this leads to a runoff. The third thing is the issue of riparian. Yeah. You find that most of our riparian reserve, you find there are a lot of activities. And if you look at the physical planning handbook, it will control what kind of activity should go on a riparian reserve. You should not have any development in a riparian reserve. I think as we continue the ad hoc development of also high-rise development all over, then without and also with poor drainage, I think we'll still be having floods. So that's why I'm saying we need to be proactive.
So what I would say is, as developers put up these high-rise buildings, they should ensure that they provide alternative drainage control methods. It's not a must that you direct the water to the municipal, to the city county drainage. We have soak pits, we have soakaways. So we should also, as much as we are telling the government to improve on the drainage, as developers, they also have a responsibility to ensure that their buildings are, in a way, self-sustainable.
Nature is so unforgiving, yeah? And if you paraphrase Wangari Maathai's word, yeah, there's a time when nature will deal with us. Yeah? It's so unforgiving because, for example, if you build along a river course, because it's a dry season, during the rainy season it will come and reclaim its space.
Congestion, traffic, and pressure on public services are becoming everyday realities.
It's normal to hear constructions happening late in the night, sometimes very early mornings, and you're just wondering, what is that? And then it hits you, oh wait, it's a heavy machine moving something. That and traffic. Where my kids go to school, the route is the same one, but it's now taking longer, just because there's so many buildings, so many apartments that have come along the road. So it's taking longer, and I now have to think about how do I reorganize my route? How will it be in 1 year, in 2 years? Do I still need to continue living here? Because it means now waking up earlier as well. So the changes are happening every day, and not to the positive direction.
There's a challenge, yeah? Because you find in most cases, you find those density, they don't take into account things like parking spaces. Yeah, so you find people parking on the road. Then the other thing is the congestion, yeah? So it creates some congestion in terms of hotspots, yeah? So you find there are areas like the junctions in most of these residents, yeah? During morning peak hours, you find a lot of congestion at the junction points.
I mean, if I have to work, it means I have to move around. And just the thought of how am I getting from one point to another is already just taxing, because I'm like, okay, so which route am I taking? Do I go by car or do I use a boda boda? If I use a boda boda, how safe will that be? Because there's also a perception, and not just that, but we've experienced, at least I know I've fallen once. So I'm making so many mental calculations just to know how am I getting from point A to point B, especially if it's during the rush hour.
A good city should have a reliable public transport. Yeah, we reduce private vehicles. But so long as we still have unreliable public transport, private vehicles does not give a solution. Because if you expand roads, we create appetite for private vehicles in terms of working on our public transport.
Beyond the inconvenience lies another concern: public safety. Questions remain about building standards, inspections, and accountability.
According to a research done by the National Building Inspectorate, it shows that most of the apartment buildings in Nairobi are sick. We only focus on the collapsing because it's the most dramatic. But you find there are other underlying issues which most buildings in Nairobi face. Like they were giving an example. If a tremor was to happen in Nairobi, for even a richer scale of 4.0 only, we will have a lot of building collapsing. Because as engineers, they don't put in consideration the seismic movements. So in terms of structural safety, it's a continuous process.
What I normally see, whatever has been approved is not what is normally developed. So we have a weakness in terms of enforcement and the numbers. Imagine maybe in Nairobi, maybe they approve maybe 100 buildings per day, and they only have 30 enforcement officers. So if these buildings are being done concurrently, do they have that capacity? So I think it's also important to see how do we empower resident association so they can also take charge, be partner in terms of supporting enforcement, maybe just by sharing information in terms of what is happening. But that seems not to be happening.
This is not happening in a vacuum. There are individuals or there are offices that are mandated or that should be the custodians, but they're not really being custodians, which even now makes me want to think about how do we define words? Because words should have meaning. They should mean something. And in those offices, my question is, what are their values? What values do they hold in that office? Because if your value is money, if your value is selfishness, then we will see it here in the realities of life.
In terms of the fast construction, there are modern construction techniques which enable faster construction. Like for example, there's the use of aluminium and steel formwork. So you can cast a floor and continue to the other floor without removing the scaffolding. But previously, we used to use wood. You know, wood is not very hard. So once you cast a floor, you have to wait until it cures, it matures, then you can go to the next floor. We have like the use of cranes. There are modern cranes which make material handling very efficient. But at the same time, we should be more keen on quality. You find there is a saying that says, once speed enters a construction site, quality quietly lives. So you have to ensure that as much as you are going with speed, you have to ensure quality. That's why we have quality control officers, we have quality inspectors to ensure that as much as you are building fast, we are also conforming to the building standard. And it's possible. You can build fast and build quality.
But the impact is not only human. Wildlife, once coexisting in the city, now faces shrinking habitats. A city that once embraced nature now risks pushing it out entirely.
I've lived in Kileleshwa for 6 years now, and I remember when I first moved to this location, there were trees around me. There were monkeys that would constantly visit just to say hi, but that quickly changed. In about 2 years, I noticed that some of the areas had been cordoned off, buildings were starting, things were just shifting, and it wasn't long before my landlord sent me a notice telling me, hey, you have 3 months to vacate this place because we intend to put up a higher building on one section of the compound. So it has definitely shifted a lot of what I knew a few years ago, and now things are changing every day. Yeah.
The effects extend beyond buildings. According to the World Health Organization, air pollution is one of the leading environmental risks to human health. Construction dust, traffic emissions, and reduced green cover all contribute to poorer air quality. Dr. Shamsa Ahmed explains the health implications.
So we're seeing a massive impact on public health with all this construction or development that's going on everywhere through Nairobi, but especially there's some areas like Westlands and Parklands that initially had maybe single houses. You were expecting occupancy of maybe 5 people. They used to have lovely gardens, trees that had been there maybe even for hundreds of years. And as we chop that down and we're making these high-rise buildings which are like 27 floors, 400 apartments, you can already see the population density in that area becomes way too much for those numbers of square meters. We have to understand that when you build this tall building, the first thing you do is you block out sunlight. When you block out natural light, you are interfering with even what we call the circadian rhythm of a person. You need to have to understand when is light and when is darkness, which means our children who were normally getting a good amount of vitamin D, getting to play in the garden, now these big buildings, they do little play areas underground. Our kids don't get vitamin D. We're starting to see kids developing things like rickets, which means their bones are becoming soft. These are things that people were seeing back in the 1940s, 1950s. As we build these buildings, that area, there's lots of dust. So we're seeing an increase in respiratory illness or chest infections, things like asthma, bronchitis. And again, we understand that these areas are becoming a lot hotter because it's like we're creating a little dome. All of these things have impact on the people who are living there. And there are some diseases that maybe have stayed quiet for a very long time, but because we are now affecting the climate and changing the weather, you're going to start seeing a resurgence of these diseases that were being kept at bay by having the weather maintained at a certain level. The moment you have overcrowding and you have an area where you don't have good air circulation, and right now you can see the houses, they're right next to each other. It's like neighbors have to ask permission who'll open the window for that day. That means if you have any infection that can be transmitted through respiratory methods, so if you have the flu, if you have something like COVID, even things like tuberculosis, those are the areas that it's going to be spread. Remember, apart from the dust and, we don't have sun, there's also a lot of noise. Noise pollution makes a lot of difference. These are kids then who are not able to sleep properly, and we know for a fact that some of this construction actually goes on late in the evening or even on public holidays, even on Sundays when people are at home and expecting to rest. So you have little children under age 5, you have the elderly, because at the end of the spectrum of age, these are people whose immunity either have not developed or they've used it their whole lives and now their immunity is a little more compromised. So they're more likely to pick up these kind of infections. The two big things we are worried about now, and we've definitely seen an uptake of those diseases in the hospital, is cholera and typhoid. Now, these are both diseases that are transmitted through feces. So, like we're saying, if there's sewage, it's untreated sewage, you get a flood, that sewage is now mixing with the water, that's what's flowing on the road, you're stepping in it, you're swimming in it, it's getting into your mouth, it's getting into your body, you will end up falling sick. So for people who are in those areas, you need to ask yourself where you are staying. Are you getting the right exposure to sunlight? How are you being affected by the noise? What are the dust levels? Some of these things are beyond the occupants, but we also have to look at talking to who are our government services, how are they regulating these spaces around those of us who are living there?
Nairobi stands at a crossroads between ambition and sustainability, between growth and responsibility. 4 voices, 1 city under pressure. A planner calling for sustainability, an engineer navigating reality on the ground, a doctor warning of health risks, and a resident demanding accountability. The challenge, finding balance.
Building vertically doesn't mean it should have issues. You can ensure there is sustainability in the building, and you can ensure there is proper open spaces and proper families living spaces.
Sustainability. Yeah, we need to look at how do we ensure that our cities are sustainable in terms of energy, because there's a lot of attempt and conditions given to developers that currently, if you want to develop, you must provide for solar facilities and also you need to harvest rainwater. So if everybody was to do that, then you'll have a very good city.
For me, it's a matter of value. So what values do those people in those offices that are signing off on these activities holding?
We need to understand that anything that is happening within the nation and within the country will eventually affect all of us. So we need to, as individuals, we are also the problem when we decide that we are going to make money by building a building that's 30 stories high with 500 flats. We are also the problem when we move into that apartment, understanding that we are putting ourselves at risk. We're also the people who are the problem when we accept the corruption that allows these things, because eventually nobody will remain untouched.
I think the effects are clear for everyone to see, that the more high-rise buildings we have, especially unplanned, because I believe there was a plan, so the more we violate this, the more it is to our detriment. We need to stick to the plan and open up the city in areas where that kind of growth can be accommodated. Otherwise, we are rushing to build, but then we are all rushing to suffer.
This is a moment to reflect, a moment to act. Because a city is not defined by how high it builds, but by how well it lives. The future of Nairobi is being constructed today. The choices made today will shape generations to come. May we remember that we are called to care, not to consume without thought, not to build without purpose. May our cities reflect not only ambition, but wisdom, not only growth, but balance, because in the end, it is not about what we build, but how faithfully we build it.